What's up, guys? I'm here with Andrew Devitt. He's the founder of Sports Social. What is Sports Social? It combines tutoring for special needs students with physical activity, sports, music, arts, and gaming. And I was fortunate enough that last week, Andrew gave me a tour of this magnificent facility. Guys, I have to tell you, this thing is huge, massive, about 20,000 square feet. It houses over 416 students and about 40-person team members. This place had a half pipe. There was a gaming lounge, a music facility, even a cafe. I was thankful that Andrew let me get some coffee. You know, your boy's always drinking some coffee. So I'm excited for this conversation. And Andrew, thank you for coming on.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you for taking a break of your busy day. As we were discussing right before this, Andrew has to go back to work to be in the front lines and hold on the business.
Yeah. Some tours, you know.
Dude, do you give a lot of tours like you gave to me?
Yeah, quite a few. You know, that's the main, families that are interested in services come by for a tour to see what it is that we offer. And
Are you the one that's giving the tours?
Me and a team of people, but yeah, I do a portion of them as well. And then also other people in the community that are like interested in, because it's so hard to explain what Sports Social is. Like I'll do my best today, but really just seeing it for yourself is the best way. So we always encourage people come down for a tour.
When we were emailing back and forth, you were like, you have to come by and get a tour to understand what really is happening. And I appreciate you for doing that, because I probably wouldn't have understood on the magnitude on how large this is in the community. When I was walking around, the amount of happiness and just significance of importance of everyone being there, I could see echoed on not only just the students, but the staff members as well. So it seems like everyone is very committed to the mission.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we spend all of our time trying to do, make sure that it's a place that makes people happy. It's a place that people create friendships, both those that work there, the kids that come, the parents. We're trying to foster and create that culture in that community all the time. So
yeah, it seems like you have a lot of staff members who've been there for a while too. I was watching some videos, and also my friend Jamie, who connected us, he's been there for 6 years, 7 years. Never wanted to leave. Sounds like he's found his home because of the specialness that's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, Sports Social was built on me and my friends, so it was built on the idea of friendship and the importance of it. So it's continued,
Cool.
A little bit of feedback.
What happened?
It's like pausing just a little bit.
Is it pausing a little bit? It might do that a little bit, just enunciate, speak up a little bit,
cool.
But it won't mess with the noise or anything like that.
Cool.
So let's start all the way back at the beginning.
Sure.
I like to do this with a lot of my guests to go through the story, because when you're a founder, man, a lot of people, they have this magnificent or large scale vision that you want, but there's so many ramps and obstacles along the way to get there. And I already see you smiling right now. He's already thinking of everything. So let's go back to just give us a brief background of, who Andrew is, how you ended up in Vegas, and kind of everything leading up to founding Sports Social.
Okay. Born and raised in Las Vegas.
A rare unicorns with us.
Born and raised in Vegas. Went to Durango High School. Grew up a skateboarder. Me and my friends from middle school hung out every day, skated after school, went to the skate park, that kind of stuff. Sometime in high school, I got a job working as a tutor for children with autism, doing what's called ABA therapy, applied behavior analysis. And I was a tutor, and I would go to kids' homes after school, and I would help teach them things like life skills and self-help and numbers and colors and a variety of of things that they need to learn. And so I did that, for a few years, and I loved working with the kids. I loved working with the families. But I personally hated school, and I never did well in school. And so as a tutor, I felt like I was just doing more school stuff, and so, I took my love of skateboarding and started, teaching these kids to skateboard. And before that I was teaching how to swim and doing all the sports things, all the bike riding, skateboarding, things like that. And so, yeah, this was high school. I was pretty young. I was just going with it. And
Still trying to figure out the world within yourself.
Yeah. Working with kids that, kids that needed help and kids that, I grew up like my family always providing opportunities and teaching me to help other people. And so it just kind of fell in line that like, that this was an opportunity for me to help people. I had no connection to autism or special needs in my family, but like I could see that like there was a connection that I had with these kids and help that they needed. And so, I don't know what's next.
So when you got that first tutoring job, was that out of necessity that you just needed to get paid, or was it something that you were slightly interested in and kind of just took a shot at it to see if it interested you?
I don't know. I was 16 and like I had worked at like Star Nursery and I worked at like a veterinary clinic, like cleaning up poop, and like those jobs sucked. And tutoring children with autism just sounded like a way better job than
like there's meaning in it.
Yeah, and I liked kids, and it sounded like I would help people, and so I was like, all right, sure, I'll do that instead. I had a friend that was doing it, and yeah, I just went for it.
Yeah. That's especially when you're younger, and so I'm kind of curious. So now you're teaching these kids. You're in a more academic, educational platform inside a house. That's mostly most of the time when you think of tutoring, it's like you're writing on a piece of paper. You're kind of grilling them. What got you out, or what facilitated you in teaching these kids in outdoor areas? Like, how did you make that transition?
Maybe I wasn't that good at the other stuff.
Because you weren't a big fan of school anyways.
I wasn't so great at that stuff. There's the whole, like, I'm a male thing. And like in most of these tutoring homes, like I was the only male. And so they're like, you do it. You're a guy, you should teach sports. When like half of the sports, like I was not like an athlete growing up in school. I was a skateboarder, but I wasn't like the athlete. So anyway, somehow I was pushed by the girls, like you do the sports. And so I did that, and it was fun, and the kids enjoyed it. It was really clear, like first, my other experiences, it was like I would be teaching a kid like the color blue or the number 5, and it was hard. Like some kids like take a long time to learn something that might seem simple, but just like, what color is it? You ask a kid, and you want them to say that it's blue because it's blue. And
they like weren't grasping the concept.
Wasn't grasping that, right? And it's a long process to learn things like that. And so then when I got the opportunity to teach a kid how to ride a bike, I think that was maybe like one of the first things was, and this kid that couldn't tell you what color blue was. But then, and we didn't think that he could ride a bike because it didn't seem like something that he could do. Like, like he didn't follow directions. He didn't, he struggled to learn and to engage in the world around him. And so it seemed like a difficult task.
Right. Yeah. You'd think that something simple as just recognition wouldn't translate over to applying knowledge and skill to something like riding a bike. It's more than just recognition. It's that you actually have to put action to your thoughts as well.
It seemed like, and so, but then like, what we found was that because there was some meaning to it, like he did better. Like when he realized like, oh, I'm going to pedal and I'm going to listen to you because then I get to ride, the bike goes forward. And like, then I get to do this thing that is like reinforcing intrinsically. That was one of the first moments pretty early on that I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Like, doing it in action as opposed to like sitting at a table and like identifying something, there's just more meaning and purpose for him in this moment. And for me too, because I also think it's cool to ride a bike and like play outside, like I cared about that. And so, I think it was with bike riding with one of my students that like, it was just like, oh wow. And then he learned how to ride a bike and nobody thought he could ride a bike. And
yeah, that's awesome. It's, there's just not something about outdoor activities or just applying yourself in a non-educational format, right? It's like they always separate this, what is considered street smarts versus what is considered book smarts.
For sure.
Because they're two completely different skills. And yes, there is a lot of crossover with it, but you can be completely superior in one and completely deficient in the other.
Sure.
And people will often overlook you because it's not similar.
Yeah. Definitely. That was me, right? I struggled with book smarts, did much better with street smarts. And I think that was what I kind of shared in common with what I realized that many of the kids that I worked with, like, they also struggled with book smart, but to your point, like, that they can really excel in these things that, like, are a little more clear and, like, tangible.
And obviously that was a gigantic epiphany that you had, because now you've been doing this for 10 years and you've upgraded a few times along the way, and you've been featured in different news articles and have a huge community. So from that point of that first bike ride, how long did it take you to form Sports Social into, like, an actual, not just an idea, but like an actual physical entity?
Yeah. So for a while, so I started tutoring when I was 16 years old, and like maybe a year or two after that, I started to kind of find, like, my niche around sports while tutoring these kids. And then it wasn't for a while. I mean, I was continuing to tutor, and I left for the summer and, like, did this thing in Mexico where I, like, helped build some houses and teach English, and then I did another summer in Spain, and I came back. I don't know, like, it was a few years. Like, so say maybe by the time I was, like, 19 or something, so 3 years later, I started offering, like, specific lessons for children with autism on how to ride a bike, skateboard, and scooter at the local skate park that I went to, which was Desert Breeze. And it was more of like a version of kind of what Sports Social is today. Still, I saw kids back to back, 1 hour at a time. Like, I'd be there. I would work 6 days a week. And so, after, when kids got out of school, saw one kid for an hour and the next kid for another hour. And, they were stacked back to back. And used the social dynamic of the skate park as an opportunity for these kids to practice conversation and social skills. And that's really how I was like, oh, this is more than just, like, riding a bike or skateboarding. It's like, there's this whole social piece that you get with it, and this whole, like, community and friendship and happiness that you get from doing these things, but doing them with friends, right? That's a lot of what sports is about. So yeah, from, like, 19 to, like, 21-ish, I was doing that. My numbers are maybe not exactly right, but something like that. And meanwhile, people are like, Andrew, like, this is cool. Like, you should do something with this. And,
yeah, like all the students are starting to stack up. Like, it's hard to start booking students at that time. When someone sees that there's a lot of success in a certain area, then people are going to gravitate towards that.
Yeah. Adults. Like, I was, I felt like I was a kid, just like these kids. And so, like, people were like, Andrew, like, you should, you have something here. Like, there's something there. And, I had a friend that I met, and he, like, I had nobody in my family that, like, ran a business or no experience with that kind of thing. And I did grow up, like, nonprofit work and stuff like that with my family. But anyways, I had a friend in gym, and he like showed me some of the basics of, like, what a business is like and how to run a business. And
it's tough. It's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough in the beginning.
For sure. And I mean, it's actually tough. Like, if I knew what I knew now, I would have never started, right? It's way easier to go to school. Like, at this point, like, I would have just, like, Andrew, you just go to school. Like, it's more simple if you're looking for an easier way. So anyways, he was, like, showing me the basics. He taught me, like, how to sell things online. And, like, I was doing this thing with the kids at the skate park, and it was growing. And he was encouraging me, like, to start a business, but he was like, don't do, like, a brick and mortar business. Like, that's a whole lot of work, man. Like, you don't know what's coming. You get a building and you have employees. He's like that. There's, like, these new businesses, like, they're online, and you sell things, and you don't even need to have them in your hands. So he taught me, and I learned so many things from him. Shout out to Jim. And
hey, shout out Jim, homie. Hope you're listening, brother. Thank you.
But but at the same time, I was like, no, this is something I want to do. Right? I want to do this. And I was still like, she taught me how to sell. I was selling like water bottles online, like wholesale to companies across the country or whatever. And
Yeah, and this is 2010 too, or even right before that.
Yeah.
So e-commerce hadn't even taken off really. That was still so new to the internet. Like the iPhone was just created in 2008 to give people kind of a pinpoint on how new technology still was.
for sure, it was cool. It wasn't like a huge business, but it was successful enough to do, and I definitely learned from it. And then with more encouragement from him and other people, obviously my family and other friends and like professionals in the community were like, hey, you should do something. So somewhere around the age of like 21 ish, I was like, all right, so I'm going to rent a warehouse and I'm going to do these lessons inside of a warehouse. And because it was like hot, it's really in Vegas. Like the summer is super hot and then winter it gets cold and it's like windy. So it was hard to do, like to offer like these like consistent lessons and classes out in the elements, you know. So like, I need a facility and I'm gonna rent this place, and I have some money saved. I had like $7,500 I had saved, and then I got my parents to co-sign on a loan for $7,500. I had 15 grand, like not a ton of money by any means, but I felt like it was enough to get started considering I already had some students. And so I rented like a 3,000 square foot warehouse. Had like a little entryway, 2 little offices, and then a warehouse behind it.
Wow. I started my first business at 25 and the whole idea of starting a business, it seems simple, but the amount of times I had to go back and forth to the business office and then you figure out zoning variances and like that every piece of every equipment's through different businesses. So you're in constant conversation with like 20 to 30 different companies and leaders and CEOs. And it's so hard to balance it. But at 21, like you barely were able to just buy your first drink, but instead you're buying materials for a very purposeful endeavor. So that's, it's very noble. It's not a lot of times that you see people doing that at such a new age. Like at 21, most kids are in college getting blackout drunk, passed out in the sprinklers. Just kind of throwing shade at myself. So it's really cool that you were able to scale that, or that you saw the vision as well. And I think the name Sports Social echoes that, because as you were just saying, you realized that the social part came second to the sport as you were getting a bunch of these special needs students out into, we'll just call it the wild.
Yeah. So much of it, like people talk about vision. Like I don't feel like I had a vision. Like, and so many times to this day, I'm like, I don't know, but I just felt like I just kind of went with what was in front of me. Like it was like, oh shit, like this stuff is just happening. I happened to be that old, happened to be in that place. And like, I was just kind of like it was all just coming through me. Like it wasn't like I had this big plan. It was like, this was supposed to happen. And I'm the person that's there, and I should do it. That was the feeling I had, was just like, okay, like
here we are.
Yeah,
here we are. We're doing it.
Let's do it. And I was not, like you talked about, like all the business stuff. Like also, a lot of times I didn't worry about like the insurance or the business licenses and like a lot of that stuff in the beginning. I just didn't do and didn't have for a while. It definitely always was just like, just do it, and then we'll figure out. But then many times I had to backtrack and like, had to deal with some of the repercussions of not doing that kind of stuff. But
some of the things that you realize down the road, and they're just like, what, you haven't had insurance for 2 years? Like, how have you made it this far in life?
Yeah.
So was Jim, would you consider Jim one of your mentors throughout this entire process?
Definitely.
Helped you with a lot of the legal and business and bureaucratic things that are kind of attached to creating an LLC.
Yeah. And just the unknowns that come with like running a business, and just kind of pushing forward and just like doing whatever. You have an idea or you have a thought, like, all right, just do it, try it. Like that's the crazy part, right? Is that you have that freedom and you have that. That's also it's exciting and it's scary that like you can do whatever you think about. You can do it.
Isn't that? That's something I just tweeted the other day. Is like, no matter what happens in the future, like in 2020, I always say this is the best rebranding opportunity we're going to get. But at the end of the day, no matter who's in power, who's in charge, you're the one that's in control of your life. And our country has gave us the opportunity to create whatever has kind of been melding in our mind for time. And so that you were able to do that. And you saw that your niche was able to scale outwards.
Yes.
So once you created your first facility in the warehouse, what were the first activities that you had dove into? You'd spoken on riding bikes and at the skate park. Were those the same activities that you implemented in the beginning?
Yeah. So like me and my friends, like they all just came, and every night, like they helped me build like this place. You know, like we built a half pipe. You know, my friend Travis from middle school, like helped me build all these ramps, and other friends, many of them helped me like make what it was. And so it was like a half pipe and like a roll in and a quarter pipe and a basketball hoop, a little area for like yoga and exercise, a little game area, a music room, like a little classroom. And so, yeah, that was the setup. And so basically it was me as the main instructor, like no receptionist or whatever, just me teaching lessons, like, you know, super basics, like what I was already doing. So teaching kids how to ride scooter, bikes, and skateboards. Then I hired somebody to teach music. And then hired somebody to teach social groups, like group classes. This was, I don't know, all happened pretty quickly in a year. I was in that first building for just 1 year. So it went from just me teaching to like a handful of people teaching in that first year. Some school closed down, and somebody was like, hey, like you should, you know, a friend, like, so like this kid that I worked with when I was little, I was 16. I'm super close with them and their family, and like, they're like my family now. And, his mom and dad and I've been really close. And the dad was like, hey, this school for kids with autism closed. You have a facility, like you can like house the kids at your place.
Yeah, you should
like,
you should take some of them in. It'd be a good business opportunity, but also really fortunate for the kids who don't have a home at the time.
Something. I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but okay. And so we did that, and then I did like a camp over the summer. And anyways, all those things combined resulted in Sports Social making money, right? I had but like, again, so I had guidance and mentors, but like I didn't necessarily listen also. So like I had no like accounting software. Like I kept track of in my head of who owed me money and how much money they owed me. Literally, like there was nothing. And so I used my bank account to know, like, you know, the cash.
Your personal bank account?
Yeah, for sure. And so I don't know where we're going. So this is our first year. It was me and friends and a couple like random weird things that helped create, you know, cash flow. And I remember like I made like $60,000 or something. And I was like, oh shit, like that's a lot of money.
Yeah, especially in 21.
You know, like, and it was in the account. Like it was like I had it, you know. And I was like, all right, we're gonna move, you know, from this place into this other place. And
what was the size difference between the first and second facility?
Yeah. So again, against advisement from other people, moved from like this 3,000 square feet, maybe even a little smaller. And the new place was 10,000 square feet.
All right, so we're tripling.
Yeah. And it was just after 1 year, you know, it was pretty quick. But I was like, it's working. And so, yeah, then we moved into this building that wasn't the best. It was like, you know, kind of older or whatever. But like,
you just needed the space because how many students did you have by the time of that first move?
I don't know, man. Maybe like 60, 80.
Okay, yeah, that's still a lot of traffic that's coming in and out of the doors, and some of these kids need, I'm assuming, probably extra space just in case.
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't big enough. It was sketchy. We had like a swing in the middle of the warehouse hanging from the rafters, and we would, you know, we push the kid and he'd do like a big circles while there's other kids like riding a bike and scootering, and it was so sketchy. And there was only one time when a kid did get hit right in the face and broke his eye, his glasses, and split his eyebrow open. That was like my first experience of like with the injury, because a lot of times when people look at the business, they're like, oh, the liability like that you have, you know, kids with special needs, skateboarding, like what? Like, you know, it seems like a lawsuit waiting to happen. Anyways, I was like, I'm so sorry, you know, to the mom. And I paid for him to get new glasses or something like that. And
I'm sure the parents are probably very understanding and very welcoming because they just need some help in any manner. And if you guys, I'm assuming, are probably providing some sort of like 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 ratio or 1-to-4, something like that. So they're getting a lot of oversight
For sure.
on them, which is relieves a lot of stress on the parents.
Yeah. It's definitely, definitely a close relationship that we have with our families. And I think for that reason, there's a little more understanding when there are problems, you know, kids get hurt, kids fall down, but like, we're doing our best, you know. It's 1-to-1, and there's supervisors in addition to that 1-to-1 ratio, and like there's support all over the place. And I mean, maybe it wasn't as great back then, you know. It was a little more messy for sure, but you know,
it always is on the way there.
Yeah.
But it's just like in the road of a business owner, entrepreneur. Some days you wake up and you're like, oh my God, we're gonna make it. This is gonna be huge, successful. And then other days you wake up and you're just like, oh my God, why am I doing this? How did I get myself into this situation? Why me?
For sure. Definitely. For sure. Felt like that for a long time.
So as far as now you're moving into a, you know, triple the size, 10,000 square foot facility. How did you just build more of the equipment? Like you'd built the skate ramp and the half pipe. Do you get donations? Do you go out and buy these kind of things? Do you take referrals from maybe the students or the parents on recommendations for what else needs to fulfill the facility?
Yeah. You know, I think that definitely along the lines from back then to now, it's always been like my mission to help people and me being okay with accepting help from other people. And so like, definitely along the way, everything happening has been like me focusing on helping people and then some people just coming out of nowhere and helping me. And like, like that's been like just kind of a central theme in how Sports Social has made it through, like just continuing to.
People who just really see the vision and it's something that resonates with them on a deeper level. So they just want to help in any way they can.
Yeah. Like as long as I'm fulfilling my job of helping these kids, you know, and it seems like there's always like friends, employees, just random people that like just want to help make it happen. You know, and so I think that, you know, again, as long as I'm doing my part and making sure, because that part's hard too. Like you can forget that you're there to help people and like focus on the business and like focus on making money, right? Like those things come a little later on for sure. But yeah, that part is important. And so to answer your question, yeah, I mean, again, like, I don't know what the situation was, but it was like, I was like, all right, we're going to move from this place into this other place. And we're going to do it in like 2 days or something, like, and we're not going to pay. Like I definitely did things with just like without organization, but like with the determination that like, we're just going to do it, you know, and figure out the details later. So anyways, yeah, definitely like I traded some services for like, in return for help with like building things and building like walls and things like that. And, but mostly like the whole thing was like, I just did things like illegitimately, right? Like I just built walls and just like built shit.
Yeah. Like a less traditional manner.
Yeah. Like I just didn't get like the permits and all the shit that you're supposed to get. I did it super inexpensive and cheap with myself and my friends and like whatever, like, you know, we figured it out and we opened up, you know, we did it. I wasn't prepared for what was coming next by any means, but I felt good that like, all right, we're in this big new place and we're here.
We're ready to take on the world with everything else that we need to.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as far as like autistic and special needs students go, what would you say is like the most misunderstood aspect to when people view autistic students? Because, you know, they just like, a lot of times they just get grouped into special needs. So people are just like, oh, like just be very careful with them, but you don't know how to go about it. So kind of now being around them for 10 years and working with them, or even more than 10 years, what would you say is like maybe some myths or some things that are often overlooked in regards to the community?
For sure. Yeah, definitely more than 10. I'm almost 32, so about 16 years. I'm also so immersed in the in it that sometimes I don't have the best of perspectives on the differences, of what typical people do or what I'm just this is my normal. But I think what I've heard some say before is that people with an autism diagnosis are one of the most diverse populations that exist. And so meaning that I think that people it's so hard to say oh, this is what people with autism are like, and people kind of have something in their mind, but really you can't or you shouldn't, just like with when you're thinking about any group of people, but just that they're so different and so diverse in their skills and deficits. Some I think that a lot of times people think oh, they're really smart at some things, and they're savants, and well, that's true for some people, but definitely not true for a lot of kids and a lot of adult people. Right. There's definitely it's so difficult to categorize
because it's a spectrum more so than it is a scale,
because it's a spectrum and because it's just such a wide range of skills and deficits. I think that you don't know if somebody in front of you has a diagnosis of autism or not. Some it might be more apparent, and you might be oh, I think that person, but many people you might not. You might oh, that interaction was just a little weird, it felt a little wrong, and you don't know why, right? It might be that person has a diagnosis of autism and struggles with conversation or struggles with different
I think it's still probably I wouldn't say misunderstood, but there isn't the full complete picture of what autism is. There's still a lot of studies that go into it. We just know that there's some sort of variance. It seems like most of the time it's on a social level, but it does translate onto an intellectual level as well, or a skills level, which you've kind of tapped into that unfound source and built it as far as you can. So I think with autism, what you had said is that it seems like a lot of people think that they usually are vastly superior in one area, and then it's kind of reciprocated on the opposite end, on the other end. And that's kind of what I had understood from them. But it's hard to really know, because I'm sure there's probably a lot of people walking around that have never been diagnosed with autism as well. And they've kind of just lived their whole lives in it. And they've just kind of been frustrated with, a lot of times it's the educational system where they need more attention on them and more creative focus than it is just a blank sheet lecture that you see in classrooms.
Yeah, man, the labels are difficult, and I don't know if they're always helpful, to have that label. But there's many people that are struggling to find happiness and friendships in their life, and I just try to be a place for people to be able to find that and to explore that. And that happens to be that a lot of our students, have a diagnosis of autism, and maybe it ends up being that it's other people. And like I said, maybe it's just our employees, or maybe it's myself, so I think that we're all kind of struggling with the same things that someone on the spectrum is struggling with, where our just experience of it is maybe a little more mild in our difficulties to communicate, or our difficulties to connect with someone, or our difficulty to use the behaviors that we want to use or we know are best, right? We all have those same skills and deficits that someone that with autism experiences. Their experience again is a little more, it's more significant. It's more difficult.
They're younger, so they're just in the beginning of taking on this issue, or this problem that they haven't been able to find the positives of it yet. So you guys are kind of assisting with it. Do you take students in that aren't on the autistic spectrum, but they do have some sort of special needs?
Yeah, we see all kids, right, of all ages and abilities. So that might mean a typical kid, for example, that just struggling to whatever. It could be a kid that just wants to learn to skateboard. It could be a kid that's struggling with friendships, or a kid that's maybe another kid, or again, I say kids, but we also have teenagers and adults that come to sports social. And so maybe it's Down syndrome, or maybe it's any type of special need, or but any person or any kid. Not
Someone who just
specific.
wants like a community in a sense, or they just feel misplaced in society in some way.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there's not a ton of, other options for people that struggle, that are struggling to find like maybe some of their own interests, as well as like they struggle to interact with other people. So like typical like group sports or like school things maybe are not like the best environment for them, because they kind of get lost in it. There's too many people, not enough instructors. The focus is not, it's not as maybe as engaging as they might benefit from. So we see everyone, but again, like 75% of our students are probably on the spectrum.
Okay.
And that being just because that happens to be a population that really struggles in the areas that we're providing, that we're teaching.
Mm-hmm. So when parents or when somebody comes in and wants to be a part of Sports Social, what is kind of the process, the diagnosis process, and then the placement into the respective either group activity or social lecture, or maybe music or gaming, or one of these other areas? How does that process go over at Sports Social?
Yes, I mean, they come in for a tour, show the family, and more importantly, show the kid around, and myself or one of the supervisors at Sports Social gets an idea of, kind of what's this kid's skills and what's this kid's deficits, and what is the parent saying, like what do they want out of their time here? Why are they here? And then with that, they gather like they are assessing kind of those skills and deficits, and then we're making a recommendation, like, hey, majority of our students are in a one-on-one setting, and either in sports, art, or music, right? So, or they're in like a group class. And so we're just saying, hey, I think, based on like, the fact that we want to work on like following directions and staying engaged and work on patience and work on a variety of these different skills, I think a sport lesson would be good for that. And we're going to work on like learn how to ride a bike, and we're going to work on how to play basketball, and we're going to target this social goal and this behavioral goal, for example. And then they're like, all right, cool, that sounds good. Or, we got to think about it. Obviously there's finances involved. Like this is a business, and we do charge a monthly fee for our programs. And the reality is also like, they're not super inexpensive, and it's a struggle that I've had, and in the reality of like that, the Sports Social is there to help people, but we are a business, and
you have to survive somehow. It's tough out there sometimes on finances and kind of what's happened in the world. I'm sure with the COVID pandemic, I'm sure that probably hurt the business in some sort of way. Although when you did give me the tour, you did mention that you were planning to move, but the quarantine and the lockdown, it gave you kind of like a refound, we'll just say a refound light and spark within yourself and the staff members to say, all right, we're moving on with this move into a larger facility, and we're going to use this time to refocus and make sure that we're fine-tuned for when we do reopen. It seems like you've had a lot of success with it.
Yeah, definitely. It's not our first time having to do that, and having to regroup and refigure shit out, but it definitely, I think that COVID has strengthened me as a business owner, as well as our organization as a whole. And I think that as horrible as it has been, looking back on it, I think we'll see like it was a turning point in our history of Sports Social.
Yep. And not only just Sports Social, but I think just society in general. I've been talking about with this to a number of people that it's basically been a giant reset button. I mean, I know, and I'm aware that it's a giant health crisis, and now it's been tied with politics as well. But many of us, we're stuck at home for 2 months, depending on what location you live in. And so we had so much more time on our hands to figure out what was really important to us. Did I want to continue to pursue this dead end job that I was in, or do I want to try to create something that maybe will be sustainable on my own a few years down the road? So there has been a focus on mental health is something I've been preaching, because a lot of people have been going mad sitting at home, and a lot of people had a lot easier time being able to focus on themselves. But you guys were able to turn it inwards, and as being the leader, there's a few different lenses that you have to look through. You have to look through your personal level. You have to look through the frame of the business. You have to look through the frame of the students, and then now you have to take probably more safety precautions as well with the pandemic.
Yeah.
What changes has Sports Social implemented since the COVID pandemic? We'll just say since March. And this could be health precautions, just anything in the business. Like what's changed since then?
Well, what's changed in our business is that we're in a new place, as we mentioned, significantly more expensive place.
And twice the size too, from 10,000 we mentioned earlier to 20,000.
Yeah. Twice the size and 3 times the cost. So it's great timing. And then, we had to figure out how can we get students back in the building, right? We're sports social, and this whole thing's about social distancing. How do you do that? And so it didn't seem possible for sure at first. And when we had to close our doors, and in the coming months, it was so up and down. As a business owner, it was just okay, all right, we can get through this couple weeks or whatever. And then it was oh no, it's going to be more than that. And fuck. It was lots of up and downs, and we were able to reopen. We reopen with sanitation being a huge piece, right? We're in this big, huge building. Let's make sure we're sanitizing everything after each use, and we're sanitizing the space as a whole. And so let's figure out a way to do that. And so we did that. We have dirty bins, clean bins, cleaning materials all over. Just part of the processes and procedures that employees are following, or to keep things cleaned. Obviously masks are required like they are with everywhere, and we have a cool temperature machine that scans your face and gets your temperature when you walk in the door.
I've never seen anything like that. Even at the hotels that I've been going to, I haven't seen something that cool. It's basically it's a camera that's attached to a flat screen, and you just walk up and it scans your body temperature. I've literally never seen that before. It's really cool.
Super official, right? It was a company in town, eConnect, hooked us up with it actually. So shout out to eConnect, and they, it's really cool. It shows people right off the bat, I think, we're taking it serious, and walk in the door, take your temperature. We have people wash their hands right when they walk in the door too. So everyone that's coming in, parents and kids, come and wash their hands. And man, a lot of it is just extra time that everybody has to spend. Both the customers and employees, parents stay outside, employees have to go outside, pick up the kids from there, and then bring them inside to clean their stations. So I think the biggest change is just everybody has to spend more time taking little extra steps, to ensure that they're safe and that their kids are safe.
Have the kids been responding well to wearing masks?
I think that a far majority of them are, way more than I thought would have. It's way better than I was expecting. I think than a lot of people were expecting. And then there's kids that really can't do it. They
just don't comprehend the magnitude of it.
For sure, reason. There's kids that are not understanding why they have to wear a mask. That's a definitely for sure thing. As well as just kids that different sensory difficulties, and so as soon as you put it on, they're just ripping it off. So that's okay if they're one-on-one setting. The kid doesn't have to wear a mask the entire time. If they're unable to, and they're in a one-on-one setting, that instructor is going to work on it for a couple seconds. They're going to work on it for a minute, and they're going to work on it for 2 minutes, and they're going to slowly build up and build. But yeah, so I forgot where we're at, but yeah.
Just talking about COVID changes.
Yeah. The COVID changes, I don't know, they're annoying, but we're able to be in business, and at this point, it's just it's whatever. You have to pay credit card fees, and you have to pay taxes, and you have to do COVID shit.
It's just another step.
It's just another thing you have to do, and at this point, if this was a long time ago, back in the day, when I first started Sports Social, when I didn't follow any rules, I would have struggled a lot more with this, and to the detriment of the business for sure.
But you've been through the ringer a few times, so you're definitely more mentally prepared for this than anything.
For sure, definitely, yeah. Sports Social was closed before, We've had a difficult situation. If you want to go back a little to like when we first rented the new 10,000 square foot place, right? So we're there, you know, things seem great. I have all these ideas. We start implementing hella shit. Like, all right, we're going to do this class. We're going to do drama class. We're going to do basketball class. I don't even know. All kinds of stuff. Like, we're going to do everything. And then somewhere along the line, so a parent, Kelly, who now works for me, she's awesome. And she pretty earlier on, she was like, hey, like, I noticed you're just keeping track of your accounting, like, in your head. Like, that's crazy, you know. I can help you out, you know, whatever. And we did like some trade thing, like, oh, your kid can come to Sports Social and help me out. And so anyways, there was some tracking of like in Excel of like money made, you know, expenses, that kind of thing.
All manually done. Yeah.
Manually, you know, no QuickBooks at this point. And anyways, at some point it was like, oh, well, you know, we're losing money and, you know, it's not going so hot. And that was pretty quick. So first year was great, right? Second year, a pretty quick awakening that like, oh, this is not as simple as like, you have to like, there's some work that you have to do in between like an idea and like execution. Like there's stuff. Anyway, so that stuff's happening. And then one night I get a call, like 6 a.m. I get a call or 5 a.m. And they're like, come down to Sports Social. It's on fire.
It's on fire?
So I was like, what? You know, so I get there. I get to Sports Social and it's flooding. It's flooding and water coming out the lobby.
Oh, man.
There's cop cars. There's firefighters, you know, and I don't even remember what happened. Like, I don't know. It was in a daze. I called a couple people and yeah, I walked through the lobby and it's just charred burns all over through the lobby and water like super deep. Like the sprinklers, when the sprinklers come on, they cause all the damage.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
They just destroy everything. So like it was like a foot deep of water and it just done everything. And then that water flowed out into the warehouse and just, you know, covered everything else in water. So, and then there was some crazy ass dude in a cop car screaming, and the cops were like, yeah, this dude says that he knows you and he set the place on fire. And
like an attack on you?
Yeah. So what happened was, the guy goes in and he makes Molotov cocktails, right? And a Molotov cocktail is gasoline inside of a beer bottle with like a cloth,
like a rag or something.
Yeah, rag or whatever, that you're supposed to light and throw, right? Is how that's how it becomes a bomb. But he didn't throw them; he just lit them like candles around the lobby, and then went to leave, right? But then realized he didn't have his keys, and so he then goes back inside looking for his keys that he lost.
While the Maltos are like lit.
And then so he gets caught because I don't know, somebody finds out he's pushing his car. He's trying to push his car to the parking lot because he parked there.
Oh my
But he doesn't have his keys.
Worst vandalist ever. Did you know him?
So yeah, kind of. I didn't recognize him when he's in the cop car screaming. He's like, you know me, you fucking know me. I'm like, I don't know you, bro. I don't know you. I'm so dazed and confused. Like, what is going on? Well, my building was set on fire and there's this crazy ass dude saying that he knows me. I thought he was some kid from the skate park. I was like, so yeah, he dated a girl that worked for me. But like previous, like it was like her ex-boyfriend or whatever. And he worked in the community, in the field. And I guess he didn't like me. And maybe he thought there was some relationship between her and I, which there was
he's
not.
One of those jealous boyfriends.
Yeah, but it was nowhere near like the reality. And I don't know. I had like that was my first experience with somebody like the hater, like just didn't like me, didn't like the success that Sports Social was having. Obviously there was some mental health and drugs combined. Like somebody liked Molotov cocktails and loses the keys. Like,
oh my God.
so pretty crazy though, man. This dude gets caught, right? There's a fucking fire and, anyways, he gets prosecuted by the ATF because he made Molotov cocktails. He gets sentenced to 10 years in prison.
Ooh.
Fucking crazy. I feel bad for the dude. I think he's like about to get out.
Did you guys have fire insurance?
So I was underinsured for sure. And that was like my first, I said I just did shit and like, whatever. I can just get insurance. Let's get the cheapest version. Get the whatever. And so I had insurance that covered like 25 grand or something. And so I found that out like, in the process. Mm-hmm. So, and then doing an insurance claim is difficult, especially when you keep no records and you have no receipts of shit.
It's all in your mind.
Yeah. Cause they want to know like, they want receipts. Mm-hmm. They want all this stuff. And so doing that was a process and being close. And we were closed, obviously. And I was in a place where it was like, shit, my business is already doing bad. And now my insurance is not going to cover all the things to replace everything. Like, what am I going to do? And so my friend Jim and then another friend I had made, Jack, who became like a really close friend and mentor and is today. And those two and myself, they were like, all right, Andrew, you need to write a press release and we're going to submit it to the news stations and we're going to get you on the news and we're going to get some publicity and we're going to ask people for money. And I was like, no, please, I don't want to do that. Like, I felt so embarrassed to ask people for money. I did not want to do it. I was like, please don't. I don't want to do it. And, but I did it, right? And we wrote the thing and it worked, right? Like,
wow.
Hella news stations came out, covered it, raised $25,000 in donations. So I got 25 from the insurance. I raised another 25. So I had 50 grand, able to rebuild it all out, reset it all up, got a whole bunch of coverage on the news, did like a grand reopening party, got that on the news. It was a difficult time for sure. And I was not prepared for it at all. But that was like my first experience with like overcoming like some adversity and like.
Yeah, it's a huge boost though, because you see that the community is so supportive of you guys,
dude,
and they see the vision.
Yeah.
And they see, you're a young business owner who just wants to do good. So they all reach out to you and you got those donations to get open. So that reopening, there must have been a ton of energy in the building. Dude,
it was crazy. Yeah. The community support that we had. And there's another piece that ties into it all. I'll explain. But yeah, it was like that was my first like experience of realizing that like I have to accept help if my job is to help these kids, and also part of my job is being willing to like accept help from other people. And as long as I do my part and continue to help kids, like, just accept help from people. And so like somebody built like 2 offices for me. It was crazy. All the stuff that came of that, somewhere along in all that. So that was all super nuts. And like, but maybe a little before or around that same time, my mom saw something in the newspaper. My mom's like always finding things that are going on. And she's always like so hip on like whatever the restaurants that are opening and the bars and like, anyways, there was this grant with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. There was this competition for $100,000. And it was like innovation and job creation competition for businesses that are less than 2 years old, that are like X, Y, and Z. And it was like all the things fit me. It was a statewide competition. So my mom's like, you should apply. You should do it. You should pitch. You had to, like Shark Tank, you had to go and like pitch your thing and like whatever. And so I did it. And it was like 300 businesses or something like that. And I made it to top 12. This was around the same time. And then it was like this popularity contest. Then you had to,
then there's some politicking to it.
yeah, then you had to go out and get the most amount of votes nationwide or worldwide or something for your team. And whoever got the most amount of votes won $100,000. And so that news story of the fire like tied into it so perfectly. We already had like the attention and sympathy of the community. And I don't know, long story short, we won, right? We won $100,000. We won the contest. We didn't get $100,000. So we won it. It was a lot of work, support, and help from so many people to get all the votes. Like it was crazy. It was like, some like dirt bike company and some other, like, it was like legit competition. It wasn't simple. So then they give us like 25,000. And like they're struggling to give it. They won't give us the next 25,000. It's called NIRAC was the organization. Fuckers. But so we get this first 25. I'm like, okay, cool. I needed that because the 50 that I had sucked up from the 50 I got from
to
the
replace everything
to replace everything, and then just the bunny business was losing money, so it was just gone. And then I got 25 when I won the contest. They gave me a big, huge check, like in Happy Gilmore, he's like, let's take the big check. But, so we got the big check and then an actual $25,000. That $25,000 was gone real quick.
Yep.
And then finally got them to give me the next 25. I got that. And then they were like, all right, you have to do X, Y, and Z to get more money and stuff like that. It was like mentorship and you had to meet these goals or whatever. Anyways, ends up kind of the point where they say, hey, we're bankrupt and we don't have the other 50.
Oh my God. You would never think that a grant company would end up being bankrupt since they're giving away their bankruptcy.
Yeah. Like they have the money. They have to have the money to give it away. I was just like, what?
They must have been doing the finance in their head too.
Some shady stuff I think was going on. I don't know when, but this is where like again, my friend Jack, he's a lawyer and business owner and stuff, and he was like, all right, well, we're gonna get that money. Like we're gonna have to, let's get a lawyer and have him send a letter. And we're going to do this and that. And it was basically just like a bunch of different like letters and exchanges. And eventually what we pressed was that the governor's office of economic development should pay us the money since they were a sponsor. And so one day they were like, all right, we're going to give you the money.
Wow.
We don't hear anything more about this. No like news, because we were like saying the whole time, we're going to go on the news and tell everybody that you didn't pay us. And we've already had the news here a bunch of times. So like, do you want us to do that or not? That was like the threat.
You had leverage on them.
Yeah. And so finally they got a check for 50,000. No, because there was again, all these things I was supposed to do to get that money. And they were just like, here's the money. We're done with you.
Wow.
All at once. That was like a year of like what I just explained. It was.
You said you need persistence in those kind of things. And it's like, you're not doing wrongdoing because you won that money. That was the contest. You know, it's only put 50,000 if you only have 50,000, but you rightfully deserved that money and you need it at that point in time. So you had some pressure on you as well.
And I had spent, I think it was like $10,000 of that 50 that I got from the donations and whatever to win that 100. Like it was like a legitimate, like I had like social media ads and I had like a bunch of stuff that we were doing. It wasn't like it wasn't like small little competition.
Yeah. It wasn't like a door to door knocking campaign.
Yeah. No, it was a big thing. So yeah, that was like my second year of being in business. It was like all of that. Like first year was like, easy, this is great, this is fun, make money. Second year was like, oh fuck.
It always comes to, I always try to tell people the faster something rises, the faster it's going to kick, faster that fall and that drop's going to come. For sure. But I always say it's not how far you fall, it's how high you bounce after that. How fast are you going to recover and build? And then you have to build that consistent foundation over time, which is something that you were able to do. Now, being at a peak and in a valley at the same time. So you understood what had to go. So once coronavirus came around, you're like, all right, I've been in this situation before. This is definitely different circumstances this time. but you know how to handle it, and now you're the leader. So, applaud you for that kind of capabilities to push through.
Yeah.
And now that it feels good, 416 students. What is the capacity of this new facility?
I think that we should be able to see, 600, 700, 800 students.
So that would be like
a
a
day.
healthy number of students to run the business, but also that the students can still be fulfilled in whatever needs that they need.
Yeah, and that number is really varied because it depends on the hours of day that you're operating. This business of working with kids is really focused around afternoons and weekends and summers, right? Like that's the business of anyone that's kind of in this field. And so we're trying to change that. We're trying to expand the hours that we operate, and the fact that we've got this ginormous facility that's very expensive and it's empty from mornings to early afternoon. And so
sleepover parties.
Yeah, sleepover parties. I don't know, whatever we can do at this point to pay that rent and to get through it. So we've got some new things that we're doing to explore those other hours of the day. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's through things like COVID and these other things, like I don't doubt our ability to innovate and create. Like I feel like we've had to do it so many times, and there's always something we can do. There's always a way.
It just takes time, like you said, from implementation of the idea, or I say ideation, and then implementation takes some time. Because it sounds like when you have that idea, you're like, wow, why did I never do this before? This sounds so easy. But then once you start going through the process of it, you're like, all right, this is why we never went through it, because there's 40 more steps that I thought so, and the different reactions from different people as well.
And that part all sucks, like that part of figuring it out. But I mean, I think that was it took a long time for me to learn, and it's just that it is a business, and that you have to treat it like your business. Like when it's a business that you're really passionate about, you can just not think about things in reality. Like you're like, I just want to help people, and I'm going to do whatever I can. As long as I'm helping people, it's going to be fine. And that's true to some level, but it's not entirely true. Like I think like somebody once told me, like they're like, in this field of like helping people, it's a difficult business because like you have to continually balance that you're here to help people and that this is a business and we have to make money. And if you're too focused on making money, that business won't work because you're not helping people. And if you're too focused on helping people, then you're not going to be making money and the business won't work. And I think that's the balance that I've had to learn over the years, and that balance that is difficult for people in the space of helping people, but also just in a space where you're really passionate about whatever it is that you're doing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to have that happy balance, that yin and yang.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. And that's not even just business, that's just life, like there's this funny Venn diagram of when you're in college where there's like 3 circles that are overlapping, and it's like choose 2 of 3, and it's like social life, grades, and sleep. It's like you can only have 2 of 3. It's like that kind of idea you can implement into all kinds of different facets of life. Sure. But with business, add probably 5 or 6 more circles in that. And it's like you can only have 4 still of 9.
Definitely. And trying to get all of them is the goal, like trying to touch on all of them. But I mean,
it's cool. Like I said, when I was at the facility, there were some of the new things that you had, the gaming lounge, which esports is taking off. So I'm sure you'll find some new students that their interest is really sparked into gaming, because that's really taken off. Same thing with music creation as well. And then I'm sure some more digital formats or outlets are going to be inspired from this as well. As society begins to take that turn to where we're going to innovate and migrate to, you guys will no doubt adapt to it.
Yeah, I think that I do feel like that like there's I don't know, like this idea that like we're like, what's the rush? Like we're gonna be here, like let's slow down. There's always gonna be a need. We've gotten through a lot of difficult situations. Like, let's slow down. Let's just take it step by step, and let's If we need to make more money, we'll innovate something new and we'll get there. If we have to cut some costs, we'll do so. But that it's a long game. Like it's not this short, like it's not a short game, and we need to play it like that. And things like at this point, things like insurance and just like those are things that a lawsuit could take us down, or there's things like that we need to make sure that we're protected against at this point, because otherwise, I think we'll make it through, but just have to be a little playing the game a little different now.
Yep. Cross your T's, dot your I's, make sure that everything is down on paperwork. Everything has been overviewed, reviewed, and so forth. But
I have like this bounce house that we've always had at Sports Social, and our insurance won't cover it anymore. It's like, and it's super frustrating because it's like part of our business, and my insurance, I'm like, I want to pay for it, and they won't cover it. They're like, oh, they're saying because you have kids with special needs and bounce house, and they're not going to do it.
It's on paper, it sounds like it's a high risk situation.
Yeah.
But when you look into what your business model is, that's you're preventative of anything bad happening, because that's literally what the business is focused around.
Yeah. So but like in prior, like I would have just been like, screw it. Like I'm just going to blow up the bounce house, but now, like, I'm like, I'm going to blow the bounce house up, but I'm going to find somebody to insure it. Like, there's got to be somebody, somebody will charge me some amount to insure it. It's crazy so trying to find a new insurance company right now. And,
Hey, that's the journey of a business leader. So many new things pop up on the side of the road, so many detours, obstacles, and so forth. But like I said, after doing this for 16 years and running your business for 10 years, I think you have a few more decades under your belt before anything happens or any drastic decision has to be made. But Andrew, thank you. This is an incredible journey that you took me on.
For sure.
I appreciate you for coming. I always ask 2 questions on the way out, same ones.
Okay.
First one is the year's 2030. What does the foundation of Sports Social look like?
2030, 10 years from now. Definitely Sports Social, Las Vegas as a hub, but Sports Social is I think, there's need for it outside of Las Vegas, and definitely Sports Social being in other major cities, and, but Sports Social being a, hub for people to come, definitely working on something where people can come from other cities and visit Las Vegas for a vacation, and also get a chance to experience Sports Social for a week or a couple weeks. And then as we grow, come to your home city and share the Sports Social that we have here in Vegas and in other communities.
I agree. It sounds like you have opened up a niche that's turning into a market. And something that I always say is that niche can become markets, but markets will never become niches. So you're beginning to expand outwards. It's a beautiful thing to see. And last question is, what does Las Vegas mean to you?
What does Las Vegas mean to me? Man, Las Vegas for me is my friends and my family is what it means to me. Because to be honest, other than that, like, it's not my favorite place. It's my friends, it's my family. Obviously, it's my business, but it's not exactly my vibe, But I'm here, and my friends are here, and so.
It's exactly why I do this podcast. It's the people that make up the city and make it so beautiful, and the reason why people stay. The attractions will bring you in, but we're the ones that'll keep you coming back.
For sure.
How can all of the listeners get involved with you, Sports Social, social media, website, anything like that?
Yeah. Check us out, lvsportssocial.com. We have Facebook and Instagram, Sports Social. And email me, Andrew at lvsportssocial.com.
Hey,
cool.
Slide into his email DMs. They are open, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew, thank you for this.
For sure.
I appreciate you for taking your time. I know you have to go back to work, so I appreciate you for taking 2 hours out of your day to come down and tell all of the listeners the beautiful story of Andrew Devitt and Sports Social.
I got you. Thank you, man. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.